There we go. That's a little better. Camera adjusted. Typewriter camera adjusted. And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Word Show. Yesterday, I did a little self-retreat. I was at a friend of mine's mountain, quite literally. It's not really a mountain, more of a glorified hill. But she has some property outside the city, and she was like, well, you can come right here. Called Gita Living is the name of the place. They're developing a meditative zone in nature there. And I wrote there, and I was there from about, I was in the morning, so it was early in the morning, all the way through to 5 o'clock. No technology. Occasionally I turned my phone on and I shared a story or two on Instagram, responded to one or two text messages, but it was very much just me, the typewriter, and the world. The day before, I had a really bad depressive episode, frankly, to be honest. And so that was what very much preoccupied my time there. And while I haven't really figured out how to nail it down and convey it in clear poetry yet, I really had some interesting developments, interesting beliefs, thoughts, and awarenesses about the self and understanding the self. And while I'm no Carl Jung, I'm no Jordan Peterson, I'm no massively wise and well-renowned philosopher, I realized I had this very important realization about oneness of the self, which might be something that's already been repeated elsewhere. I'm sure it has been. I even wrote that somewhere here. Oh goodness. I know I definitely wrote it somewhere in here that I do not have an original thought or something like that. Into my piles of papers. What I did is I realized that when, there's a certain progression from duality to duplicity to self. And duplicity not necessarily being a bad thing here. I actually posted a poem about duplicity on my Instagram. That when we start, when we're getting older, and we come across, I guess, for what Alan Watts calls our shadow, the dark part of ourselves, we like to think of it as two separate selves. There was this story that was tossed around one of the motivational forums that I used to visit a lot when I was younger, which was about the wolf, two wolves inside, like a gray wolf and a white wolf, and one is all the noble, beautiful things, and the other is all the dark sides. And I don't want to contradict the philosophy of the shadow, but what would happen is people would share these stories about the wolves and be like, yeah, there's me and there's other me. I would do that too. And that isn't even a bad way to look at the world. But what I did is I especially had a very good therapist tell me too, I progressed through from looking at it that way to understanding duplicity in myself, which is that I am one person but doing two separate things, and kind of letting the right hand not know what the left hand is doing, as Alan Watts would say. And so that was something that I changed at, but then I still didn't feel like I had it, because, for example, this depressive episode was so powerful that it just really knocked me on my butt. And I wrote about kind of talking about depression. By the way, everybody, welcome. This is the Morning Words, and it's Morning Words Studio. I've changed the name. The name might take some time to adjust. I might change the name again. The idea is that I don't want this to necessarily be a show about me, but I want it to be a studio in the sense of, this is going to mess everything up. I want it to be a studio in the sense that this is a place where everybody can come to create, to explore, to congregate, to hang out. It's very open space. So I'm rambling here. You don't have to listen to me. You could drop something in the chat. You could tell me you like a poem about this or that. This place is open, very open. But anyway, in my reflection at the end of the day, I wrote about how depression is like having a giant in your head, and you walk past this cave every moment. Some moments are simple and stirring. Some moments you can see him, but he is not looking for you. And in some moments you manage to barely escape. And so I go into this metaphor about the giant. But then I say, but I see now that the giant and I are one. It is as if our bodies are overlapped over each other. Two particles of matter sharing the same space and impossibility. We name mental disorders and we name all sorts of things as if they are separate things. We name mind and heart to make distinct, but the river never stops flowing. And I talk about electrons as a metaphor. So I went a little crazy with all this when I was out in the woods. What do you think is going to happen? You know, man goes out into the woods. It's just ragingly in the middle of nature. And yeah, but it was powerful. And so there's a lot in here. And I want to pull some of it out of it because I got to read tomorrow night. I still have those other poems that I wrote. But ultimately, what I really got to start doing here is, while there is going to be definitely days when I'm just writing for everybody on the stream, I really need to start getting my work together. Like, there's piles of poems everywhere over my desk. It's terrible. I have so many words, but they're not organized. Well, I think that for now, I'm going to edit a poem that I have here, which for all intents and purposes, I'm going to call Fading into the Distance. It's about blending into nature, and the difficulties of doing that, and the benefits of doing that. So if you're just tuning in, welcome to the Morning Word Studio. I'm going to bring back some of our Akira the Dawn music. Let's see what's playing right now. There we go. Let's do that. I like that. And I'm going to switch to the typewriter camera because this can swing. I'll just get some of me writing. Should have probably made copies of all these so that I had the originals. These words that I've written, they're really, I don't want to say they're like templates. They're very much that they could go many directions. I'm working on them. Okay, I think I'm ready to type. Good morning, Twitch here, Alex. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am, for lack of a better word, really high on nature poetry because of yesterday's wonderful writing retreat where I was out in nature for most of the day with very limited technology. And so this morning, I'm editing some of those poems, seeing what gold I can mine from it. It's funny though, because my poetry still remains very undisciplined. There are many projects which I should be working on right now that are not this one, but I'm doing this because this poem is calling to me this morning. Get some of that type action going. And we're bringing out the big guns for this one. Yeah, I put an 8.5 by 11 in the typewriter. These poems. Oh, so you heard. You've been here in the background. I figured so. I didn't want to assume, but I appreciate it. And I appreciate you swinging by. Oh. Never wrote this part. And I have another poem in here where I talk about blending with the tree. Have you ever written something and not been sure what it's about? For the past 10 minutes, that's exactly what I have been working on. Because I've been working on something which is, I'm not really sure what it's about, but I know it's about something. And something deep. Something beautiful. I think it's about getting lost in nature, but like that's so surface of what this poem covers. So I'm going to let this one loose. I'm going to hear how it sounds because I have a very practical challenge, which is I need to find things to read for tomorrow night. But I also have a very, this poem I'll work regardless. Just maybe not this rest of this week. Myself, fading into the distance, seeking that simplest form of self, letting all the noise but the green canopy cease, walking with the muse of mountain majesty. I am surrounded by the activity of being. Breathe in the oxygen machine. Drown in sapling and live. Let my limbs sink into the soil. Blending with bark, I melt. I am like water. I am the raging river through the gully, the dried out storm wash, cascading with the hill in my grasp. All is washed away. I do not take a living death as an answer. All living is dying. Apathy is no friend. Acedia shall be cast into the torrent nigh, searching for a mossy rest with the free spirit, the Whitman God left on my doorstep 2 decades ago. Something I left here. Something sitting on the forest floor, buried by the rock and ash, the fallen tree, and autumn death all around. I cannot find it now, lost among the buds, rising anew from this fertile soil. Just making some notes. So, the first part of the poem is strong. Actually, if I take out myself and like have a title, the very creative forest as the title. That whole first portion of the poem really makes sense to me, where I disappear into the forest. But what happens after that is it breaks. And that's the part where I feel like I'm not happy with it. This was actually 2 separate poems that I put them together. And I do not take Living Death as an Answer was part of the original first poem. It's the part where I lost something at the end. That's new. Right. I think this was too personal, too relevant, because I was talking about depression. If I cut that out, with the hill in my grasp, all is washed away. All living is dying. Do I have some other verses in here about all living is dying? Uh, well, I think then I could bring this stanza in. I wrote these 4 lines while sitting out there. I want to be devoured by bear, trampled by deer, torn apart like squirrel, buried like tree. I think I could bring that in somehow to really hit it. But I am going to cut it short here. Not that I'm cutting it short. It's been a half an hour. This was really cool to be able to dive into these poems. But somehow I've got to come up with something I can actually read. Which reading my disparate poems out loud doesn't work. I have to figure out something else. So, okay. It was good to stream. If you are watching this on the replay, thank you so much for watching. I thank you all for being here. Twitchier Alex, thank you so much for your presence here. I will see you on the morning stream with Akira the Dawn, the meeting stream. And I'm appreciative to be here and in this space and to be able to spend a couple of minutes this morning carving out something from the marble that I mined from the from the forest. Good morning, Wind City Chess. I know that we spoke a little bit earlier this week. I'm actually about to tune off. If you want to watch the replay when it is finished, I worked on a poem called "The Forest." I recently had a small writers retreat, and it's been it was really I was just sitting out in the woods for a whole day with a typewriter, and some really interesting stuff came out of that. Very, very philosophical. All right. Catch you all later on. Have a great day.